So Westside Jeff is the name, sitting in for Chris Krok here, News Talk 820 WBAP. Joined me in studio. He came down for the weekend, my buddy Rick from Ohio, who does radio up there. And we're talking earlier today about the moon landing yesterday. And I was surprised to realize, I knew this, but I guess I'm surprised. It was 1972 was the last moon landing. And Rick and I were talking over lunch, and he said, have you seen all the conspiracy theorists that don't think we landed on the moon in 72? And we just got talking about it. And I said, let's do this tonight. He said, sure. So here we are. We're talking about it tonight. So many folks think the news of the landing on the moon in 72 was a conspiracy theorist that really never happened. And I actually saw some stuff across social media today saying the same thing about yesterday's moon landing. In addition to that conspiracy, nothing but conspiracy theories about what happened yesterday with AT&T. That they said, quote unquote, we believe, their official statement. Let me pull it out again. I didn't have it right in front of me. Their official statement is, based on our initial review, we believe that today's outage was caused by application and execution of an innocent process, and as we were expanding our network, not a cyber attack. And I've seen nothing but all kinds of conspiracy theories about that, too. At some point in time in my lifetime here in the last several years, Rick, we went from believing what we hear and read and see to we're questioning everything. It's a conspiracy.
I always hear people say, what happened to honest journalism? And the answer, because money. That's usually the answer to most everything, I believe, is because money. There's a term called confirmation bias. And this is the tendency of people to favor information, watch news that confirms or strengthens their beliefs or values. And it's hard to break that habit once you get it. So people watch news that they want to be true. I try to watch everything. I put on split screen, and I'm just changing which one I'm listening to. I've got CNN, Fox, MSNBC, BBC, whatever. I've got, I always got multiple screens going. And it really becomes annoying because it's like, one of them is always lying to you at all times.
Well,
sometimes, and I just throw my hands up and say, you're all liars. Stop it. And again, everything's because money. And with the country becoming so divided over the past 20 years, all the news networks have had to pick a side because people want the news that they want. Like, if you watch CNN or MSNBC, there's a completely different world going on out there than there is if you're watching Fox News or Newsmax.
Yeah.
Again, because they have to pick a side. If CNN were to all of a sudden say something really negative about Joe Biden and then say something about, positive about Donald Trump, their viewers, their heads would explode. They'd be saying, what do you mean? That's not true. And it would be the same for right-wing news. Although I will say the left-wing news outlets sure seem to outweigh the right-wing outlets. But, for me, I'm on a rock station, a rock music station in Columbus. We target rock music listeners. And, here I am playing Metallica, Shinedown, Pantera, etc. If I were to suddenly put on a Taylor Swift song, our audience's head would explode. They would be like, hey, what the heck are you guys doing? It's the same deal. Everybody has a target audience now. It's, Jeff, it's not like the good old days when we had 3 networks and they all gave us the same exact news every day. And really, when you look back, who knows how much of what they said was true.
Exactly. So we're talking conspiracy theories, and we took a call about 30 minutes ago from a guy that said, you know what, check out the flag and the moon landing in 72. It was standing stiff, and it looked like it was almost ironed, and it was staged, and that was one of the things that made people question that. And then another caller called and said it had some wiring in it to make it like that for a photo op. But I continue to get messages across social media that says, hey, Jeff, the motive for a conspiracy theory about the landing on the moon in 72 would have been about the show of strength to Russia, because we were at Cold War at the time, and it was about trying to be there first.
The race to space.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. If you want to weigh in on this conversation about conspiracy theories of would it have been, did we land on the moon in 72 or not? And if we did or did not, what the conspiracy theorists have to prove with that, and what's the motivation financially, who stands to win.
Yeah, in this case, I don't think it is. If we faked the moon landing, in this case, I don't think it is money. I think it is to show that we had the better technology, we were able to get there first.
I say we landed on the moon. There's a golf club, at least a golf ball up there. And I can tell you this. Remember, I'm from Ohio like you are. You live up there. My wife is from St. Mary's, Ohio. It's right next to Wapakoneta, home of Neil Armstrong.
And Grand Lake.
There you go. So there's a Neil Armstrong museum up there. We landed on the daggone moon. That's my opinion. It's Jeff, Westside Jeff, in for Chris Krok. You want to weigh in?
So
800-288-9227. Richard from Arlington. Sorry to keep you on hold so long. Thanks for sticking around. What's your thought on this topic tonight?
You bet. Great to hear you, Westside, and great to hear Rick.
Thank you.
So I'm right with Joe, who was the one that talked about there's a wire or a bar across the flag. If you go back and you watch the video, which there's all kinds of video out there from NASA on the YouTubes and stuff, you'll see them when they deploy it, that it came up. Secondly, the issue about it being stiffened, I don't know what material it was made of, but it definitely wanted to be displayed to show, hey, this is our U.S. flag. We made it. We made the word said we made it for all of humankind, but we were showing the American flag. Thirdly, one of the later missions left a video camera on the moon running, showing the lunar module and the surrounding area, including the flag. And when the top part of the lunar module lit its rockets and expelled gases to go go back up to the command module, everything started blowing around, including the bottom of the flag was flapping around. And then once the rocket was gone, then it would have at some point settled down. Even though it's 1/6 of gravity, at some point you toss that the golf ball or a rock, and at some point it's going to land. The other thing is we've got telescopes on the ground. We did not land on the dark side of the moon. There's only one side facing Earth at all times just because of the way it rotates and revolves in sync. So get a powerful enough telescope, look up at the moon, and look to see if the debris is still there, the base of the lunar module, the experiments. They also have a laser. They also bounce a laser off the moon. They left a multi-mirrored assembly on the moon, and they bounce a laser off of it and back, and they've talked about that. So I think we landed there. Definitely we did it to show the Soviet Union, USSR, not Russia. Russia was just the main part of it, and that here we are, don't mess with us.
Richard, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate you weighing in on your opinion. Some good points. David from Dallas, thank you for listening. You're on with Westside Jeff and Rick on News Talk 820 WBAP and now FM 93.3. David, you there? No, David?
We lost David.
No, David?
Hello?
Now, see, the things we've been hearing from the callers, and I love this because...
David, you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, David. What's your comment?
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the show. First and foremost, I'm actually not convinced that we landed on the moon. I've heard a lot of talks about the flag recently and that being a pivotal point, but that's kind of like outside the picture. You know, you'd have to convince me with further evidence. My background's actually aerospace, so,
really?
When it comes to...
And you're talking about landing on the moon in 72 or yesterday or both?
I actually did not witness yesterday, but more specifically back in 72 and even yesterday. But the biggest topic really here is going to be why would it want to be faked if it was faked? For those that have the position we landed, I think the first question is to ask them, do you have a problem if we didn't go at all? And what's that problem? Only each person could answer that individually for themselves. So I take a position in the beginning that, of course, we landed on the moon. That's what I was told. And that's what I thought I had evidence. But as soon as I became educated myself. I took the position of we did or we did not. Convince me of one or the other. And so then I started to realize that the evidence...
So David's not a believer.
So, yes.
All right, David, thank you very much. I appreciate you calling, man, and thanks for making your points. Rick, there's a guy, and he said he's in aerospace, and he thinks we didn't land on the moon in 1972. I still think we do. But it's, Rick, your thoughts?
I thought he made a great point, with what he was talking about. The question, it was a great question, is if you found out that it was definitely faked, if you found that out right now, would you care? Would it bother you? And I'm going to say, it wouldn't, because I understand why. Because that was my biggest question, was what was the motive? And now I know it was to show the rest of the world that we were the best and we got there first, and look at our strength, look at our technology. But for me, that makes sense to me.
For me, it would bother me because the media, a government agency, NASA, and the government and the media were all in on it by convincing us we did. So they lied to us in 1972. So it would bother me.
I understand that.
Weigh in on this, 800 at 288-9227. It's 800-288-WBAP. You can also hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff. That's Rick. I'm Jeff, sitting in for Chris Krok. We'll continue this conversation in about 4 minutes. Talking conspiracy theories. I'm Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok. Chris is back next week. Joining me in the studio, my buddy Rick. He does radio up in Ohio. He's down here joining me in the studio he came down for the weekend. And I said, come on down to the studio and jumping on the air. We were talking earlier today about conspiracy theories, about yesterday, the moon landing. And we were talking about how people still don't believe, as we just heard from a guy, David, who works in aerospace, and he thinks it's a conspiracy. We did not land on the moon in 1972.
I will say, he did say he's kind of at the point where he said you need to prove to me it did happen, or you need to prove to me it didn't happen. So yeah. I think he's still on the fence, but he can see both sides of it.
And some breaking news late this afternoon, early this evening, is the military's been tracking another high-level balloon flying at 40,000 feet over Colorado. I don't know the latest on that, but I got to tell you, you and I talked about that real quick during the break, and you had a white look on your face because it was the first you heard of it.
Yeah.
And if we have a balloon flying over our country right now, and you don't know, and you're in the media space like I am, and I've not seen it anywhere in the news media other than seeing it online. Is it real? Is it not?
You said you saw it on the BBC?
Yeah. I saw it BBC, CBS, Fox, NBC, CNN.
Oh, don't worry. They'll shoot it down once it gets out over the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. How about shooting it down right now?
Nah.
Shoot, fire, gone. See you later. Goodbye.
What fun would that be? Where's your sense of adventure, Jeff?
No, I'm not into that kind of adventure. Ask AT&T customers. That was a sense of adventure yesterday when they woke up and said SOS or crap out of luck there on their phones. Today, AT&T issued a statement that said they blamed the incident on an error in coding without elaborating. And they said, quote, based on our initial review, we believe, I hate the word believe, you ought to know what it is because you fixed it. We believe that today's outage was caused by the application and execution of an innocent process used as we were expanding our network, not a cyber attack. Our country's full of conspiracy theorists, Rick.
They believe. At least NASA said it's a fact, without a doubt. The lunar lander is on the moon.
That's what they said last night when the lunar module hit the moon. 800-288-9227. Go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to say, if the AT&T deal, if that is some sort of conspiracy, what's the motive?
Good question. Let's ask Clay. Clay from Joplin, Mississippi. Thanks for listening to Mike from Keller. Thank you for listening to News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. What's your thought on the whole conspiracy of what we're talking about tonight?
Of course. We have the outage of the phone, then we got the balloons. China's playing games, and we sitting by drinking that AHA water like it's nothing to it. They just treating us like old prostitutes, and we just skinning and grinning. All we have to do is I'm just thinking of this being good old hee-haw. I'm a roaring, he grinning, I'm a plucking, and I'm a grinning. I just break out the banjos.
Nothing to see here.
That's right. Ain't, Sergeant Schultz in the background. Just we don't want to put him in no Daisy Dukes and holler, I see nothing.
I love Mike. I love him.
So do you,
Nothing.
Mike? Do you think we landed on the moon in 72?
I don't know. I remember when that happened, and there was a whooping that took place.
Buzz. Yeah, Buzz knocked the guy out in the hotel. Yeah.
And do you believe what do you believe about the outage yesterday in AT&T?
Well, like I said, the balloons are there, and like I said, they're always doing distractionary things. They're always doing.
There is something to that point, is distractions and media at the appropriate time, right? I mean, what are you doing? Some door dashing there?
Yeah, I just
Well, I tell you,
honestly, I can't deliver no balloons in my vehicle, so I can't. But the balloon,
Mike, Let me ask you a question since you're doing DoorDash. I saw a story today about a girl. She made a TikTok video. She was complaining because her DoorDash driver, she's in an apartment building. She's up on the 6th floor, and the DoorDash driver would always leave her food down in the lobby and not bring it up to her door. And she said, this is DoorDash, not Lobby Dash. And she was upset about that. So what is the deal? Are you guys supposed to take the food to the door?
Well, I don't do DoorDash. I do another service. I'm not
Uber
gonna
Eats?
That name because they don't pay me advertising fees. But, you supposed to actually take it to them if you can get it to them.
Okay.
Get them to their destination. I mean, but one thing I try not to do is when I'm delivering food or anything else. People say leave it on the ground and stuff like that. I mean, why would I personally wouldn't want nobody put my food on the ground, even if it's on my doormat.
Right.
I mean, if I see a table or something by there or a chair, I'll put that chair in front of their door and put that food on that. It's just a common courtesy with me, especially when the weather gets warm and you got them ants coming up there. They like to have a little snickle of a taste of mood. And, what's wrong with having little ants in your rice or ants crawling around in your rice and, little slivery things and,
Well, we've got audio of the girl who complained on TikTok today.
Play that coming out of the news. We got to hit the news in just a moment. Lori's got a update coming on the Fonnie Willis story out of Georgia.
Well, like I said, she, in reference to that story, I mean that young lady, she had to get her scratch on and. She should have picked somebody to scratch it up with, especially if she paying them that kind of loot. You know what I mean?
Attaboy. Hey, Mike, thanks for listening. I appreciate you calling. Thanks for being part of the show. On the other side of the news, I want to get to that DoorDash story and have a conversation about that. This is Rick with me. I'm Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM 93.3. We just talked to Mike a moment ago who was delivering food. I said, what are you doing, delivering food? And he said, yeah. I said, who for? He said, I'm not going to give the name of the company out because they don't pay me enough to advertise it. So, Mike, I appreciate it. And that led right into a great topic that Rick here, and I'm Westside Jeff in for Chris Krok. My buddy Rick is in town. I said, come on down to the studio and go on the air with me. So he did. He goes back to Ohio Sunday night because he's on the radio up there. And he and I were talking about a piece of audio that he has about DoorDash. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. Give me about 6 minutes, and I'll get that to you about a woman complaining about DoorDash, and it's not Delivery Dash, it's DoorDash. You bring it to my door. She's a Karen, let's say. So I
disagree. Yeah, but we'll get to it. We'll
get to that. Give me 6 minutes. We'll talk about it. But right now, I want to get to Fylvia and Garland. Fylvia, thanks for staying on hold for a few minutes. We're talking about the landing on the moon, whether we did or not. What's your thought on that, Fylvia?
Oh, sons, boys. It makes me shake my head at what did we not teach you guys in history class? Okay, first off, the race to the moon. Yes, we were racing the Russians because we were trying to prove that the communist system was not the best system in the world, that the capitalists could do something as well, because their view was we were too self-absorbed as capitalists to do anything of great scientific import. But once we landed in 1969, we won the race. All subsequent missions after that were for the science. I started preparing to be an astronaut back in the 60s. I wanted to be an astronaut, and every letter I wrote to NASA always came back as Mr. Sylvia, whatever. And I'm like, you can't tell by my name I'm not a guy. But that was the mindset back then. Girls do not do science. And so I had to become a Girl Scout leader. But anyway, I was the secretary during one of my years at Stephen F. Austin State to the geology department head. The geology was real. And the 70, I don't know why y'all are fixated on the 72. What's the reason everyone's thinking that's a conspiracy? Versus
that was just the last. Yesterday was the first time we were back on the moon since 72. But that was the second mission.
I was going to say, we have good geology that came from Senator Schmidt, who was on that mission. He brought back good geology that's in our textbooks from that mission. He was one of the last people to walk on the moon, and the only one who did not have a military background, by the way. He's a senator now or he became a senator for, I think, New Mexico. But yes, there's all this reasons why people have tried to debunk that we've been on the moon, and no, there are no land-based telescopes that can be trained on the moon that's tall enough to see the debris there. The Hubble would be required, and they are not going to mess its orbit up just to prove to people that we've been there. There's other ways to know, like your caller who was talking about the lasers. Unless there's aliens living up there, sending the lasers back. Did you guys know that we have other science that is dependent on the science we got from up there? The only reason now that they're realizing some things on Earth evolved the way it did in the oceans is because those laser pings that were pinging off those mirrors, those were showing the measurements of the distance between the Earth and the moon and showing the moon is still in the act of moving away. Every revolution is a little further away, a little further away. Well, you wind that back the other way, and once upon a time, the moon was very close to the Earth. Well, if the moon in its location now can raise the ocean several feet at high tide, imagine how much it raised the oceans when it was twice as close as it is now.
Yeah, the way I understood it was that it was a meteor that hit the Earth, and then part of it broke off and became the moon, right?
That they have not 100% laid to rest.
Okay.
Because the moon, for one thing, the moon is so spherical. It's unique in the solar system as far as being around a planet of this size and having the think about Phobos and Deimos of Mars. They look like captured asteroids. Okay, one of them looks like a potato.
Yeah.
So the fact that it is round and has had geological activity in its past. There were active volcanoes once upon a time on the moon. It has a magnetic core, very, very small. It is, in some rights, just like the moons of Jupiter and the moons of Saturn, a kind of little planet in its own right. It's just, it has no atmosphere. The gravity is so low. See, Mars has slowly been losing its atmosphere because its gravity is so low. That's why they think Mars might have actually been in an orbit closer to the sun than it is now, and might have had more gravity, and it may have been impacted enough to lose enough material that it lessened its gravity. They're not sure. That's
So,
what's
Sylvia, bottom line is you're saying we landed on the moon. I agree with you. Rick agrees with you. We appreciate you calling. Appreciate you being a part of the show. Thank you very much. Good point there. Let's we got to get to some other callers. Let's get to Rick in Flower Mound. Rick, are you there with us on News Talk 820 WBAP? Thanks for listening.
Yeah, Jeff and Rick, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoying your show a lot. I grew up around the space program. My father was a flight surgeon at NASA during all of the Gemini and Apollo missions, so he was the doctor for the astronauts and their families. And on Apollo 11, first moon landing, if you go back and look at pictures of when the astronauts were picked up out of the ocean, brought to the helicopter, taken down to the hangar deck of the aircraft carrier and walked into the mobile quarantine unit, the guy holding the door open in that picture is my dad. On the next mission,
you forever have that memory,
wow.
Don't you? Good for you.
Yeah. On the next mission, he was the guy inside the mobile quarantine unit. And we had to go, when they got back to Houston, we would go every day and visit him and talk to him between a glass with some telephones for 2 weeks. And if this was a hoax, why would they go to the extreme measures of quarantining these guys like they did? Okay? And my dad was one of the most honest people I've ever known. He was so close to everything that happened throughout Gemini and Apollo that if it was a hoax, he would have known it.
Again, back to what Rick says, there's too many people involved. If it's a hoax, one person can't keep a secret, let alone 25 of them, right?
Exactly.
Well, and here's another thing. If the reason that the conspiracy theorists say was a hoax was to project the United States' technological might and power over the Soviet Union, why would we have Apollo 1 and Apollo 13? Apollo 1 killed 3 astronauts. Apollo 13 almost killed 3 astronauts. If we were trying to project might, why would that narrative get out there?
Great question. That certainly didn't project might. Rick, thanks for listening, and thank you for calling. I appreciate being a part of the show. Thank you very much.
I love it when we can have a discussion because people can't seem to have discussions
That's
anymore.
What talk radio is.
And you let people state their case, and then we react, we respond, and that's how you make progress.
Sort of like the woman in DoorDash, huh? That's a discussion,
right? But I wanted to go back to Sylvia. That was so great.
Yeah.
How she explained everything. And Sylvia, if you're still listening, I don't know if you heard us in the 8 o'clock hour, how we got on this, because I just wondered what the motive was for if we did fake the moon landing. I never thought we did fake it. And I feel like I can believe every word that came out of Sylvia's mouth.
Oh, she's a lot smarter than I am, man. I was about ready to say, are you a scientist? I mean, a whole lot smarter than I am. She certainly knows her stuff. I got to hit a break on the other side of this. When we come back, Rick, let's you and I talk about DoorDash and this lady that went off on TikTok and complaining about delivery drivers. If you've ever had one, you'll know what we're talking about. And I want you to weigh in when you hear it. You got to hear what she had to say because she went off. That's Rick. I'm Westside Jeff, and for Chris Krok on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. Give me about 5 minutes. I'll play the DoorDash audio to wrap up a couple callers on this moon and conspiracy and the whole thing, the moon landing. I'm Jeff, Westside Jeff, and for Chris Krok. Join me in studio is my buddy Rick. He does radio up in Ohio, and he down here in North Texas for the weekend. I said, come on in, let's sit in the studio and talk, and that's the rest of it. So here we are.
Next time we're doing this during football season so we can go to a Cowboys game, please.
Well, I want to go to 18. I want Jerry to call me and say, hey, Westside, I listened to you on the radio. Come on over and be my guest. So Jerry, give me a call. I'll be happy to come check it out. I'll bring my buddy Rick. We'll sit there and talk about the Cowboys. Let's get to Ken in Arlington. Ken, thanks for holding for a while. I apologize having you hold that long. What's your thought on the whole coming in the moon and the landing?
Hey, when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, did he ever determine what kind of cheese it was?
Ooh.
You waited 29 minutes to say that. Really?
Swiss.
No,
It's white, so it's Swiss.
Yeah, Swiss. But that wasn't the first moon landing. Remember that old cartoon with the rocket landing in the eye?
No, I don't remember that.
Wait,
There was an old cartoon.
Marvin the Martian?
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah,
I think he's talking about the Jetsons.
Yeah. And on this, my dad worked for White Sands Missile Range for 36 years. You ever hear of White Sands Missile Range?
No. White Sands Missile Range.
It's out there in New Mexico, and they did a lot of things out there. My dad's first year there was, you know who Werner von Braun was?
No.
Hitler's rocket scientist.
Okay.
And so my dad worked under him for a year and all that other stuff. My dad's got rewards from NASA, Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, and he believes the moon landing. So, I mean, if he believes it, I believe it. And so...
and we believe it too, man.
That's good enough for me.
Thank you for listening. Thanks for being a part of the show, and thank you for holding for 29 minutes to ask us about what kind of cheese it was. I'm telling you, it's Swiss cheese, because when I look up the moon, it's white. It's not yellow. It's not American or Jack.
And it's got craters.
It's Swiss. So there you go. Deborah from Austin, thanks for holding. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP.
Yeah, I was just calling as a follow-up to a previous caller that was talking about the video camera that was left on the surface when they left the surface.
Yeah.
And my question is, I've seen that footage, but how did we get that footage if we left the moon? It's not like we were streaming it.
I'm not sure the answer to that.
Wait, did they leave it in 69 and then get it on the second mission in 72?
That I don't know.
The
caller made it sound like it was left in 72, and if we haven't been back, then... But I've seen that footage, and my question is, well, how did we retrieve it?
I guess, Deborah, I don't know that I have to do some research on that. It's hard to do while I'm talking on the radio, so I don't have time to do that. But I guess technology, we had a camera that had some kind of built-in storage capability that transmitted back here, but a battery capability that would allow it to work for X amount of time, just like your cell phone has a battery and then it runs out.
Yeah, the lander that landed yesterday, Odysseus, is going to run out of juice in about a week.
Well, it's on site as of this afternoon.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yes, I understand. But if the camera wasn't left in 69 and then subsequently picked up in 72, which it may be the case, I haven't heard that, that would explain it. But if not, then if we left it, how did we get it back?
Yeah, I don't know if they could transmit.
We weren't streaming
from
that.
the moon.
We weren't streaming. I don't believe that we. I don't know that the technology existed for that.
Right.
I don't know. I got to do some research on that. I'm going to look into that. Thank you for calling. Thank you for being a part of the show. It's a good question.
That's a great question.
I'm sure there's an answer. I just don't have it top of my mind. Rick, you and I talked earlier about a DoorDash story.
Yeah. I personally have never used DoorDash or Uber Eats. I just always go get my food. But, here in America, everybody's trying to develop more ways to make us lazy. I mean, they have made everything about as easy as possible. Everything is available on demand, and you don't even have to take off your pajamas.
Ask Amazon. Hell, they knock on my door 3 times a day.
It's unbelievable.
They make wellness checks and ask and say, is Mrs. Westside Jeff okay?
Well, so DoorDash delivers to this girl, and she's like on the 6th floor of this apartment building. But you can get in as a delivery person. You can get in. You can get on the elevator and take the food up.
So it's an apartment complex, an apartment building.
Right. And so she's upset because they don't do that. They leave it down in the lobby, and they tell her they left it in the lobby, and then she's got to go down, and she's upset because it's supposed to be DoorDash. And it's very funny. Her video that she put up on TikTok is going viral, and we've got the audio here, so listen to what she had to say.
I want to know what happened to DoorDash, because somehow DoorDash quickly became call you when I'm in the lobby dash. Hey, come outside and pick it up dash. I wanted it at my door. That's why I DoorDashed it. I might be in the shower. I can't come downstairs to the lobby in my pajamas. That was the whole point of getting it to my door.
DoorDash.
I have to agree with her.
Come down to the lobby and get it.
That's great. I love that. I have to agree with her. Now, earlier this morning, somebody actually texted me. They actually contacted DoorDash and asked them what their policy was. And it is that if you specify, I want it brought to my door, they have to bring it to your door. Now, if you're in a building where, they have security in the lobby and you can't get on the elevator to go up, I don't know if maybe they can be buzzed in or whatever. But for her, she said no. She went on to say that they can bring it up, and I'm wondering if she didn't tip well or something, because that's a big deal. If you're going to use these services, you need to tip, because as far as the regular charge for DoorDash, they're not seeing any of that. They're dependent on your tips, just like somebody who's waiting tables. They don't even make minimum wage. They are dependent on your tips. So if you don't tip them, I can see them pulling stuff like that and not wanting to bring it up. But I'm on her side. If that's me, is she lazy? Maybe she is, but she's paying to be lazy. She's spending her hard-earned money so that she can be lazy and lay around in her pajamas and have her food brought to her door.
So if I'm a delivery guy and coming to your place, it's an apartment complex, it's up on the 6th floor, and it's going to take me an extra 5 minutes to get up there and find your apartment and get it to you, you expect that.
Yeah.
See, I'm okay with them leaving it on the first floor. This is
it's not DoorDash, it's DoorDash.
Well, but it's just going to take extra time to get up there and to find it. And on some,
that's your job.
Yeah, but in some buildings, guess what? I see it all the time. You go to a hotel, they got to have signs on the. I go up to the 6th floor and there's signs saying rooms 601 to 610 this way. You ever go to a hospital? Why can't they number the rooms chronologically so that I know exactly where I'm going? They're all over. It could take you forever.
I would like to know who agrees with who. If you're listening, what's the phone number?
800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. She says it's not delivered to the front, the lobby dash. It's not leave it on the outside dash. It's delivered to my door dash. It's a woman that has a 6th floor apartment, and she wants you to go in the building, up the stairs. What if the elevator's broken?
I don't know, but I'm waiting for people to call in and tell you you're wrong.
No,
I agree with me.
No.
Bring it to my door. Your DoorDash.
800-288-9227. That's Rick. I'm Westside Jeff, and for Chris Krok coming up next. About 3 minutes, we have Lori Waffenschmidt in the newsroom. She's got an update on the student death down in South Carolina, and Trump and Judgment Day coming up. That's with Lori in the newsroom. I'm Westside Jeff, and for Chris Krok on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3.